Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a great time here at ChangeNOW. I don't know about you, but I'm thrilled to have this conversation with such an iconic duo. My name is Loup Espargilière. I am the editor-in-chief of Vert, which is an online media that sees all the news through the lens of the environmental emergency. It is free, it is amazing, it is fun to read. Please check it out. Now, thank you. Now back to my two cool guests today. Lamya Essemlali, you were born not far from here, in Gennevilliers. You've had a strong connection with animals since you were a child. Almost 20 years ago, you came across Paul here in Paris, and he made you want to get on board a ship and risk your life to save whales. Then you created the French branch of the Sea Shepherd movement, right? For 20 years now, you have been tirelessly fighting for saving marine life from humans, and lately to rescue Paul from Denmark. Paul Watson, you come from a bit further west since you were born in Canada. You made tons of things, so I won't be listing all of them. But you have been kicking ass for more than 50 years, boarding fishing boats and rescuing animals, including tons of whales. You created with others Greenpeace in the US. Then you got kicked out because you were too much of a fighter. Then you created the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, which you ended up quitting because they weren't fighting enough. Then you two founded Sea Shepherd Origins to reconnect with the movement's militant roots. And now you're the head of the Captain Paul Watson Foundation, with which you keep on fighting when you're not in jail. Last year you spent 149 days in detention in Nuuk, Greenland, because Japan wanted to get its hand on you, as you are the biggest pain in the bottom of its whaling industry. And Lamya, like I said, 20 years ago, Paul helped you fully embrace your activist career. He says that you are the most prominent Sea Shepherd activist on the planet. You have written his biography. You've moved heaven and earth, remuer ciel et terre, to try to set Paul free when he was held by Denmark. What is the nature of your relationship?
What is the what, sorry?
The nature of your relationship.
I don't know. To me, Paul is a great inspiration, first of all. He's a mentor, he's a friend. There is a very strong friendship and a spiritual connection.
How about you, Paul? How would you describe the two of you? You're not just like fighting buddies, right?
Well, about 20 years ago, when Lamya first joined my ship, it became very apparent that she had the passion and the courage and the imagination that was needed in order to build a strong Sea Shepherd movement in France, which she has done exactly that.
Paul, you live here in Paris. France got particularly moved by your detention in Denmark. Many people here fought to set you free, to try to set you free. Why do you have such a strong connection with France?
Well, I've always had a strong connection with France because, first of all, it was Jules Verne that inspired me as a child to get involved. And then, of course, I had the opportunity to work with Jacques Cousteau on many cases and with Albert Falco, and also with Jacques Perrin on the making of the movie Oceans. So we've had a long time association in France.
So Paul, like I said, you've been fighting for decades to save many different animals, but you're mostly famous for saving tons of whales, notably because you had a TV show called Whale Wars that was viewed by a lot of people. My question is, why the whales? What's so important or fascinating specifically about the whales?
Well, all species are important, but for myself personally, I had an experience in June in 1975 where a dying whale could have killed me. It had just been harpooned by a Soviet vessel. And as the whale came up and out of the water to come crashing down on us, I looked into his eye, and I felt the whale understood what we were trying to do, because I could see the effort he made to pull himself back and slide back into the sea. I saw his eye disappear beneath the surface, and he died. He could have killed me, but he didn't. He chose not to. But then I said, why are we killing these whales? I'm sitting there in this boat in the middle of the Pacific, and I'm saying, why are we killing these whales? And the Soviets, nobody eats sperm whales. They kill them for oil. And one of the things that the Soviet Union was killing sperm whales for was sperm and spermaceti oil, which is highly prized for high heat-resistant lubricating oil. And one of the things that it was most highly prized for was the construction and maintenance of intercontinental ballistic missiles. And I said to myself, here we are killing this extremely intelligent, socially complex, self-aware, sentient being for the purpose of making a weapon for the mass extermination of human beings. And that's when it hit me. We are fucking insane. And I said from that moment that I would do everything in my power to protect as many of them as I possibly can. We do not live on this planet without whales. We don't live on this planet without trees and bees and worms and microbes. We simply do not. And unless we learn how to live in harmony with all of these other species, we are not going to survive.
So usually when somebody wants to get on one of your ships to join your crew, you ask them, are you ready to die for a whale? Do you still do that?
Well, for 50 years I've asked volunteers, are you willing to risk your life to protect a whale? And a lot of journalists have said, well, that's really, not, how do you ask young people to risk their life to protect a whale? That's outrageous. I said, well, we ask young people all the time to risk their life, to kill people for real estate, for oil wells, for flags, for religion. It's a far more noble thing to risk your life to protect an endangered species or a threatened ecosystem than it is to protect a piece of cloth.
Lamya, you did risk your life. And the first time you came on a boat with Paul, you already risked your life for a whale. Do you ask the same questions to people who want to fight with you on a ship?
Well, we do say that there is a potential risk for your life because the people that we are facing don't have the limits that we have. And when you commit to common campaign, there are many ways to join the movement Sea Shepherd, right? You can do it from your home, on local groups. You can organize talks in schools. There are many ways. But if you want to go on the field, if you want to be at sea or on the beaches, if you want to patrol the beaches of Mayotte to deter poachers from killing turtles, you know that you're going to be in dangerous conditions with people who are armed, who are violent, who don't have the same limits as we do. So you need to know where you are stepping in. And that's very important. So there is no surprise. It's not for everyone, and it's okay. If you're not ready to do it, it's okay. There are other ways to get involved. The thing is, I really don't want to put a hierarchy on things and to think that, oh, if you want to be a real fighter, you need to be ready to risk your life. You know, it's not about that. I think it's a matter of temper also. And you will find a way to bring your part to the movement. But we need some people who are ready to take those risks because it makes a difference. And it's part of a wider movement.
Now you have a daughter. Are you still willing to take the same risks? Because I've read an interview, it was not quite that simple now. Now you have a daughter, like...
Yeah, well, when you become a mom and you have a kid, especially at a young age, who needs you, you think differently. But I just think differently. I think about her, but it doesn't stop me from doing everything I've been doing before, because I also have an additional reason to get involved because this is the world she's going to live in. I mean, I cared about this planet before she was there, but now I care even more because when she's going to be an adult, she's going to live in the world that we are fighting for now. So I'm thinking, yes, I don't want her to lose her mom, but at the same time, I want her to live on a livable planet. So, yeah.
Shouldn't people from your crew be ready to risk their life to save, let's say, a sardine or a urchin? Like, should we have the same empathy for all living beings?
Absolutely. You know, you should be able to take those risks, and my crew and I have taken those risks for many, many species. But the key to our success goes back 50 years ago when I developed this strategy, which I call aggressive nonviolence, to aggressively intervene without causing any injury. And in 50 years, we've never caused a single injury, and I've never been convicted of a criminal felony, ever. So aggressive nonviolence is a workable strategy. And but you can't be passive about this. You have to go in, you have to intervene, you have to obstruct, and you have to have the courage in order to to do that. So that, I think, has been the key to our success.
According to the French philosopher Baptiste Morisot, the ecological crisis comes from a sensibility crisis, une crise de la sensibilité. He describes it as an impoverishment of everything we can feel, perceive, understand regarding living beings and the relations we can create with them. Do you agree?
Well, I think the reason that we're in the situation we are right now is our outlook on reality. For thousands of years, our point of view has been anthropocentric. What that means is it's all about us. We're the most important species. We're the only species that matter. It was all created just for us. And as long as we continue to believe that, we're not going to survive. We need to adapt a biocentric point of view, which indigenous people all around the world understand, and that's this idea that we're connected with everything else. We have to live in harmony with all other species. And if we don't do that, we're simply not going to survive. We cannot survive on this planet alone. Every single major dominant religion on this planet is anthropocentric. It all says, we're number one, we're the best, and we're the most powerful, and that's the way it is. But we're not even that important. There are other species on this planet more important than we are. Imagine living in a world without bees, a world without worms, a world without microbes, a world without trees. If not for them, we couldn't exist. Oh, they would do very well without us, but we would not do very well without them. Ecologically, they're far more important than we are, and we have to humble ourselves to understand that that is the real reality on this planet.
Lamya, how do we solve this sensibility crisis? Like, how do you reconnect people that are living in the cities, people that have like their own problems? How do you reconnect them to the living beings?
Yeah, I think we all suffer from a sort of collective amnesia. We forgot where we came from. We forgot our connection with nature. And because we don't understand that we are one with the ocean, with the living world, that's why we do so much harm. And I mean, if we look at the situation in a very objective manner, we can see that all the harm that we do to other species and to this planet, we do to ourselves. And we keep searching for, to fill in a gap. I feel like we are collectively sick somehow, you know, like there is a gap inside of us that we're trying to fill in with overconsumption, with excitement, entertainment. And it just doesn't work. It obviously doesn't work. And in the way doing it, we are destroying the planet. And it's like, a collective psychosis. And it's very interesting to see that the most wealthy countries, France is an example, we are one of the most wealthy countries. We are also one of the biggest consumer of anxiolytics and antidepressants. In countries like the United States, which is supposed to be like one of the wealthiest countries in the world, the second reason of death for the young is suicide. It's suicide. I mean, it's crazy. What does it tell you? I think we have to go back to the roots of where did we get lost. And I think the key is, as Paul said, the fact that we think that we are the only thing that matter. It's like if we made ourselves an orphan species, you know, and it's firing back at us. And we are not that important, ecologically speaking, but we are very important in the way that we are the only species on this planet that's capable to trigger a massive extinction crisis. We are the most destructive force of life that this planet has ever known. That makes us very responsible of things. So in that way, we matter. And if we are not up to that responsibility, then yeah, we're going to destroy ourselves and destroy the rest of the living world. And we're going to be the saddest species of all. And the only thing that we're going to leave on this planet after we're gone is just that huge scar, that huge destruction of life. That's our legacy today, now, more than anything else. Yeah, we do some nice things. We write poems, and we build nice cathedrals, and yeah, we do arts. It's great. That's the bright side. But all this will be gone in a few thousand years. What will still be there, it's the extinction of millions of species that we have exterminated. So today, this is our long-term legacy. And we have to change that.
So there is this guy who's not famous for his empathy towards anybody. Do you know Donald Trump? So no empathy towards like humans or any other kind of life form. So he started destroying as many laws and rules protecting the environment as he could, since now almost 100 days he's been back in power. Do you think he's one of the biggest individual threats to life on Earth nowadays? Lamya, maybe Paul? She told me not to get Paul started on Donald Trump, so maybe
No, he should answer that. I think he will answer that better than me because he knows his program better than me.
Oh, well, Donald Trump's not the problem. The problem is all of these incredibly uneducated, ignorant people who voted for him. That's the problem. And it's also, it's a product of a country that has never valued education, that has distorted its history, that has pretended to be the greatest, most freest country in the world when it never has been. It's a nation of lies. Just a couple of weeks ago, the press secretary for Donald Trump said, you know, the French should be very grateful to the United States, otherwise they'd all be speaking German. What an incredibly stupid thing to say. Here's the reality. If it wasn't for France, the United States wouldn't exist. It was the French government that loaned them the money, which they never paid back, by the way. It was the French fleet that defeated the British fleet and cut off their supplies to Cornwallis at Yorktown. It was General Lafayette, whose army, who moved in and beat the British. It wasn't the United States. They're a bunch of ungrateful, ignorant savages, is really what they are, who have never had the intelligence to go out there and get a proper education. Instead, they've exerted all their energy on the genocidal destruction of the indigenous peoples of the Americas, and that is something that they should never be forgiven. Do you know in the United States there are many Holocaust museums? There's not a single museum in the United States to the genocide of the American Indian people, not one. And that is probably one of the most shameful things that the United States has done.
So I'm glad I got you started on Donald Trump. Thank you, Lamya. So Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems you don't talk much about politics, usually, at least publicly. Today it is clearer than ever that the extreme right everywhere around the world, whether it's in the US, Brazil, the Philippines, Russia, or even France, has a political project which consists in dominating, destructing nature, animals, forests, but also minorities, women, and so on. Do you think one should clearly state that if you want to protect life on Earth, you must not vote for the far right, or that you should even fight it? Like, should one make a stance, a public stance, against the extreme right as a force that has a destructive project?
I don't think anything will ever be solved through politics, right or left. Anthropologist Margaret Mead once said, never ever depend upon governments to solve any social problem. They never have and they never will. All social change comes from the passion, the courage, and the imagination of individuals and groups of individuals, non-government organizations. They put the pressure on the governments, and the governments are then forced to change. Politics is the art of possible. They do what they possibly can, and they will not take any chances. Women did not get the vote in the United States because of President Wilson. He opposed them all the way. He signed the thing and he gets credit for it. But a lot of women had to go to jail, had to be beaten, and even died to get that right. Slavery wasn't ended in the United States because of Lincoln. He gets the credit for it. It was ended because of Wilberforce and Douglass and other people, John Brown, who put their life on the line to struggle for it. And that, again, all change comes from the passion, the imagination, and the courage of individuals. So non-government organizations have to keep it up, have to keep on the pressure, and when they actually accomplish something, they can always count on the government to take credit for it.
So you think having Marine Le Pen or Marine Tondelier would make no difference, the French president?
He doesn't know. I don't think he knows the programs.
You don't know Marine Tondelier?
No. I mean, he knows, but I mean, just explain him a bit more.
Yeah. So you think in 2027 we have the presidential election in France, So you think it would make no difference in France if we had the extreme right or the Greens in power?
Again, I don't think we can depend on whoever's going to be in power, right or left or in between. It has to come from the people. I mean, I was one of the founding members of the Green Party in Canada. And then these parties, the Green Party tends to evolve, it has in Germany and everything, to just be another mediocre political party. You know, it just goes along with the flow. There's no real change. There's no real change. And I don't think we can depend upon any change coming from the right or the left or the in-between. It has to come from all of us. And that's the only way it's going to work.
But if I can answer this, because I've read the program of the far-right movement, and what is their plans also for the ocean and for the environment. And I'm not even talking about the social things that obviously I don't align with, but if we just focus on environmental issues, they do have an absolutely disastrous plan. That's, I mean, there is no comparison. I share Paul's disappointments in classical green parties that have been failing us over and over again, that are definitely not up to the task. That's one thing. But a program like the one of the party of Marine Le Pen, I mean, for the ocean, for the planet, would be by far more destructive and more detrimental if we just speak about programs on this matter. So, I mean, I think that's something that people, I mean, if we put aside all social considerations and focus on the planet, we look at the programs of everyone, even if we know that they're not, the Green Party is not going to be up to the task. I don't think so. But just voting for a program that's blatantly destructive of the planet, which is the one of the far right, is concerning.
Well, I often have people say to me, I'm going to vote for the lesser of two evils. So if it's in the US, the Democrats are the lesser of two evils. That's not the way to look at it. I'll tell you, in the 1920s, Adolf Hitler was the lesser of two evils. Ernst Röhm could have taken control of the Nazi party, and he was far, far worse than Hitler, if you can imagine that. So the lesser of two evils is not always the answer.
Lamya, a year ago, actually, when Emmanuel Macron dissolved the National Assembly, there was this surge of the extreme right of Rassemblement National, and some organizations, such as yours, Sea Shepherd France, took a public stance and said you should not vote for them. Like, you didn't say you should vote for the left or you should vote for the right. You just said, please don't vote for the Rassemblement National. Was it important?
Yeah, well, again, I stick to the facts and to their programs. And here's what they want to do. They want to go for deep sea mining. They want to, I mean, their program is absolutely terrible. Also on pro-hunting. And I mean, this is, so we had to say, okay, if you consider voting, look at what their promises are. Look at what you are voting for. So no, I don't believe that the solution is going to come from the left, that they're going to save us, because I think, again, they are not up to the task. And I think they have a big responsibility also in the fact that the far right is raising. It's because people are disappointed, right? But at some point, when you care about the ocean and the planet, you can disagree on immigration issues. That's another topic. But if you care about the ocean, you cannot vote for that kind of party, that kind of program. So that's why we didn't even take a stand like, don't vote for them and vote for them. We said, this is their program. This is what they want to do to the ocean. They're going to rip off the ocean. You care about the ocean, think about it when you vote. That's it.
So these days, there seems to be a big crackdown on activists in many places of the world, including France, where you can be accused of being an eco-terrorist if you demonstrate against water mega basins. Paul's imprisonment seems to be a proof of this repression that is getting bigger. Do you agree? Is there such a movement?
Well, you have to be prepared. To me, every situation provides an opportunity. So that when I was arrested in Greenland, that provided an excellent opportunity to focus international attention on continued illegal whaling by Japan. So I took advantage of that, and we all should take advantage of that. 2 weeks ago, Greenpeace was fined $700 million in the United States by Energy Incorporated, and of course everybody's upset about that. I'm not upset about it. I think that's the best thing that's ever happened to Greenpeace. I'll tell you why. First of all, they're never going to pay it, and it's given them an incredible international forum. How flattering it can be that a $700 million fine is leveled at an organization that's never actually going to pay it. It's going to be tied up in appeals, and it's going to be an ongoing publicity machine. So you have to look at the positive side of all of these things. If they come at you, use it against them. That's like the martial arts of Aikido. Comes at you, just use it against them. Every situation provides an opportunity, and so that's the way I think we have to look at it.
So what were the upsides of you getting in prison for 149 days? Like, what good came out of that?
Well, the upside of that is an incredible public awareness internationally about Japan's crimes, about Denmark's crimes in the Faroe Islands. So it was a great educational publicity campaign. When I got the president and prime minister of France on my side, the president of Brazil, Bernie Sanders came out, the Pope came out and supported me. That's an incredible educational campaign, and you have to look at it that way. So I didn't look at it as a punishment. I've never been convicted of a crime in my life. Now, I've spent a lot of times in jail, but that's part of the thing about being an activist. I don't think of any real activist on any social level who's done anything has not had the opportunity to take advantage of going to jail, from Gandhi to Mandela to whatever. That's all part of the problem, of the project. You have to be prepared to go to jail, because that's where real change comes from. I remember one time when Emerson said to Henry David Thoreau, "What are you doing in jail, Henry?" And he said, "What are you doing outside?"
I can tell you he was not stressed in jail. We were more stressed. I was more stressed than he was, like way more. So.
Well, I have to say, I was in prison. I was the only non-indigenous person in the prison part where I was at. And everybody was supportive. The prison guards were supportive. And I have no complaints about the prison there. I just saw it as a wonderful opportunity. And the Japanese government is extremely upset that I wasn't sent back. By the way, the Greenland court made the decision to extradite me. The next day, the Attorney General of Denmark made the political decision to not extradite me. And in January, the Japanese foreign minister called in the Danish ambassador to, basically to say Denmark had betrayed them. Now, when your case is being discussed at the highest levels of the Japanese government, that means you're making an impact. So I'm quite happy with the way things have turned out.
So Lamya, when we first met, it was for an interview that was released on Vert.eco, the website of my media, and you talked to me about something very interesting. You said to me, Paul is famous, he's a famous activist, so maybe he's going to get out of jail, but what about all the not famous activists that they go to jail and stay in jail? What about them? Is the repression being worse and worse towards them?
Yeah, I was shocked at the level of the deployment of power and political blackmail, economic blackmail that Japan puts on the table. I mean, they threatened to cancel huge economic contracts with France and with Denmark. I mean, they were full on him. It took a huge public awareness and mediatic attention to get him out of there. And it struck me that all those activists who don't have the exposure that Paul has, they have no chance. None. They would be crushed. They would be gone. And no one would ever know about them. So, yeah, it really troubled me. I thought, wow, we're just destroying lives of people, risking their life and their freedom for the common good. And they stand no chance if they don't have the public support and the media attention. It's very sad and disheartening. And I think what happened to Paul has to be used as a spotlight on this global issue that is beyond Paul himself.
So like I said, you've been an activist for 20 years now in France and in the overseas, on the seas. Would you say it is more difficult to be an activist now, to act than it was 20 years ago, or is just like much more people, many more people now do act, and this is why you see a growing repression? Like, is it more difficult now than it was a few years ago?
Some things are easier and some things are more difficult. We don't have I mean, we have a lot of people coming to us and willing to be involved, also because I think there is a raise in awareness that the situation is gonna take, everyone has to get involved. And at the same time, as Paul was saying, he can speak about that better than I, it's that at his young years, I mean, it was more easy to do really bold actions that today we wouldn't get away with. I think he can explain better. So we have to find new tactics and new ways of getting things done without being crushed.
So what are these new ways? Like, how do you act effectively nowadays?
Well, you have to use your imagination. The laws are far more repressive now. It's much more difficult to be an activist now than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. There's no doubt about that. So you have to be able to work within a media culture. You have to create stories using your imagination to get your point across. And that's difficult, but it's the only way that it can be done. So, I mean, but we have an uphill battle. I mean, just look at the reality. There's 8 billion people on this planet. There are more subscribers to the video game Warcraft than there are environmental activists in the world. That's the situation that we're in right now. We need people to get involved on many levels, whether that's education, litigation, legislation, or activism. We need more and more people to get, because that's the real strength. You're not going to solve these problems through big environmental organizations. You're going to solve it through hundreds of thousands of small grassroots, non-government organizations getting involved on grassroots levels. Save this particular tree, save this particular marsh, save this particular species. Individuals making a difference. Because of Diane Fossey, mountain gorillas still exist. Because of David Windmate, the storm petrel of Bermuda did not go extinct. There are so many individuals who have changed the world, and each and every one of us has the power to change the world, and we have to make sure that nobody deters us from the passion to do just that. We can do it.
So what if people in this room wanted to make a difference? Like, what should they do now? Like, the first action when they get out of this conference, what is it?
Stop eating fish. There are many ways, really. I think, yeah, on a very practical thing, overfishing today is the #1 threat on the ocean. And 40% of what's being fished is used to feed farm animals. So definitely, our consumption of animals has a huge impact on the ocean. And this is a choice that we make several times a day, every day. So we have so many opportunities to make a difference. But more generally speaking, in the involvement, I think the best thing, I think you are the people who know exactly where you can make the biggest difference. What are you good at? What inspires you? And just think of how you can put that at the service of the greater cause. And again, on another spiritual level, I would say that we can justify everything we do to this planet if we forget that we come from the ocean and that we are one with the living world. As soon as we reconnect with the rest, then we change. But it has a lot to do with what I was saying earlier. This disconnection we have with nature is at the roots of everything we do wrong, including ourselves. So I think we need to reflect on that. It's very important, because all the rest will come in with that change of mind shift.
I just add, just identify your passion. What are you passionate about? Then identify your skills and put that to work. And the most important thing of all, don't get depressed, don't get pessimistic. And I'll tell you why. Because you have no power over the future at all. You can do nothing about that. But you have absolute power over the present. And what you do in the present will define what the future will be. And that's where you have to focus it. So don't think about how bad things are going to be. Think about how you can make things good now. Thanks.
Yeah, in Vert, my media, we have this motto, it is too late to be pessimistic. Like, it's no time to look at your clock and be, am I going to make a difference? Is there still time? No, just like go for it, do something, and you'll see at the end if it was worth it. So in early June, France is going to host the United Nations Summit on the Ocean, UNOC. Will you be there, and what do you expect from this summit?
Well, we intend to bring one of our ships to Nice, and from there we're going to launch a campaign to combat deep sea mining, which is one of the major threats to the ocean. So we'll be there, and we'll be speaking. By the way, Japan said that if I'm to speak there, they're not going to participate. We'll see if they do or not. And I just want to add one thing. This has got nothing to do with the Japanese people. Most of them are against whaling, and most of them are, concerned about the situation. This is about the corruption of the Japanese government, which is one of the most corrupt governments in Asia.
And you received a lot of support letters from Japanese people when you were in jail.
Yeah, when I was in prison, I got about 7,000 letters, and quite a few from Japan, and every single one of them was very positive.
Just before we like go out for lunch and don't eat sardines, I have this one last question for you two. What gives you hope? If there's anything at all that gives you hope?
I'm not always hopeful. The thing is that it doesn't matter. That's not my motivation. Even if someone was going to show me in a crystal ball that we're going to screw it up and we're going to fail, I would do everything I'm doing right now. Because, yeah, that's what keeps me going, is to feel that I'm doing the right thing and I'm doing everything that's in my power. That's my responsibility. I try to let go of guilt, because I had a lot of guilt when I was a younger activist. I was feeling guilty for being part of this species that's destroying the world. And I switched that guilt into the sense of responsibility. So I'm just taking my responsibility, and that's what makes me happy. And the outcome, we will see, but it's not in my hands. So sometimes I'm hopeful, sometimes I'm not, but it doesn't really matter.
Well, I'm neither hopeful nor not hopeful. As I said, I don't focus on the future. And just briefly, I'll tell you the most important lesson that I've learned in my life. In 1973, I was a volunteer medic for the American Indian movement during the occupation of Wounded Knee in South Dakota. And we were surrounded by U.S. federal troops shooting at us. We didn't have any hope of winning. And I went to Russell Means, who was the leader of the American Indian movement, and I said, we can't win here. The odds are against us. They're overwhelming. So why do we continue to be here? And that's when he told me something that I'll never forget. He said, we're not concerned with winning or losing. We're not concerned with the odds against us. We're here because this is the right place to be, the right thing to do, and the right time to do it. Don't worry about the future. We do what we do today, and that will determine what the future will be. And that's what stayed with me all of these years since 1973.
Well, thank you so much to the two of you, and thank you everybody in the audience. I hope you're not having fish for lunch or for dinner, and that you won't have forgotten everything tomorrow. It's been a great pleasure. We can chat afterwards, and have a nice day. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.